in every sphere of life, you need people. But I think why it's so important in the world of work is that if you think about the workplace, you get a job, irrespective of where you work, you don't actually choose who you get to work with. You don't choose your boss, you don't choose your other teammates, but actually your success is highly dependent on your ability to develop strong working relationships where you can have productive outcomes. So people are so different. I often think about the workplace like Noah's Ark. You have mice, giraffe, elephants, all living together, and you're supposed to produce, value for your clients. I would say there are things that I think are good for building rapport, like having your camera on. So many times going to a conference call, going to a VC and people's cameras are off and it's like, so somebody has likened it to, would you come to a meeting with a paper bag on your head? You wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? But always try to let the human side come out. Okay.
Hi, everybody. You're welcome to today's episode of the Maverick Med podcast. And like always, I go searching for people to bring us a lot of information that will give us value, not just as an international medical graduate, but to anyone else who's tuned in. I'm really excited about our conversation today because I have found us someone that I would describe as a relationship guru. And she is in the person of Mrs. Tracey Abayeta. Tracey, tell me about yourself. Who are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Hannah. It's a pleasure to be here. So as you mentioned, I am Tracey Abayeta. I am a mother of 3, but also I am an HR professional. So I look after the people within organizations, and most specifically, my focus area is talent development. And I really see that as the role in the organization that is constantly thinking, do people have what they need to be successful in their role? So that is a really important question, especially in an environment that is changing all the time. I'm also an author. So you mentioned that I'm a relationship guru and I love people. I'm really passionate about people, actually. And one of the things that I've started doing over the years is teaching people how to build relationships. So I wrote a book last year called Networking Made Easy: 5 Steps to Powerful Professional Relationships. And it was really because I came to understand that relationships play such a critical role in our success in the workplace, but nobody talks about it. Nobody teaches us how to do it. It's so intangible, yet so critical. So that is kind of my contribution to help really demystify that for people.
So let's just dive in deep. Tracey, do relationships matter?
Yes. 100%. I guess in every sphere of life, like we all need people. But I think why it's so important in the world of work is that if you think about the workplace, you get a job, irrespective of where you work, and you don't actually choose who you get to work with. You don't choose your boss, you don't choose your other teammates, but actually your success is highly dependent on your ability to develop strong working relationships where you can have productive outcomes. So people are so different. I often think about the workplace like Noah's Ark. You have mice, giraffe, elephants, all living together, and you're supposed to produce, value for your clients. Relationships are so important. So I believe that those people that have the ability to get on with different people from all walks of life, in the end, it will favor them. So that's really important. And the reason why I think it's really important as well is that I think, in our upbringing, oftentimes we actually don't get the opportunity to develop that muscle. So oftentimes, for me, I grew up in inner city London, Ghanaian household, and I learned that skill on accident because at the age of 10, I was plucked out of inner city London and I was placed in a boarding school where I was the only Black girl. And with people from all over the world. And I realized looking back now, actually, it was that environment that allowed me to build that capability. But if you've never had that opportunity, you can go into the world of work and you're now working alongside people that are so different from you. And you find it difficult to connect with them. You find it difficult to relate to them. And that in itself could potentially be a block to you progressing in work.
Thank you, Tracey. You grew up here in London, but for many of us as international medical graduates, we find ourselves here where we be trying to adjust. We've relocated, packed our 32 suitcases and the hand luggage, and trying to settle in. So probably no friends, no family, or even if there are friends and family, they probably just came with us. And so it's a whole new game for all of us. Beyond the language and the food and the weather, work can be a bit, can be a bit daunting because you think you don't understand them or they don't understand you. And I hear complaints, from the doctors. Some of the nurses would say he doesn't know how to relate to us, or he's a bit overbearing, he's bossy, he doesn't talk well. And these are some of the challenges that a lot of international medical graduates find themselves in. So, Tracey, should our colleagues be our friends? You being the relationship guru.
That's a great question. And I think, I would say, you mentioned that I was born and raised here, but I was, my parents were, they came over in the 80s and they were raising us. They had, they didn't really they weren't well networked. My first job was in finance industry. I didn't know anybody that was in finance. So again, even though, yes, I grew up here, there was a culture shock going into the corporate world. And I think that's what a lot of international students will face. Some of you, maybe, you're coming from backgrounds where actually back home, you're very well networked. And then you come here, like you said, with your 2 suitcases, whatever luggage restrictions and your hand luggage, and you're meant to, create, a new life, but you've kind of been de-networked. So it's similar in the sense that you don't necessarily know anybody in the field that's done what you're trying to do. How do you navigate that? So, you ask the question, do your colleagues have to be your friends? And I would say, I don't think they have to be your friend, but you have to have a productive working relationship. And when I say friend, I mean, they may not be the people you choose to hang out with after work, go on holiday with them. Some people have relationships with their colleagues and they would do that. But if you don't have that, I don't think that has to put you at a disadvantage. But what I do think you have to do is work and see, how can I make sure that I have a good working relationship with people? Understanding that actually what is important when you start working is, how do people experience you as a person? Oftentimes I grew up in a household where education was very important, and you realize that there's a huge emphasis on that. And I thought, if you work hard, you do well, you're going to do well in life. And then you get into the world of work and you realize that actually nobody is asking you, what did you get for your A-levels? What did you get for your, what degree did you get? What did you get in that module? No one really cares. And it really is about, how do I experience you as a person? So again, I think going into the world of work, yes, people may not be your best friend, but is the experience of you a positive one? And there are kind of 2 ingredients, I say, are kind of almost, if you have this, you will definitely have good relationships. So if you're having a tricky relationship at work, I can guarantee you it probably boils down to 2 things. It's either you're not adding value or they don't trust you. But if you add value and they trust you, even if I don't like you, I will want you to be on my projects. I want to work with you because I know that you're going to deliver value and I know that you're trustworthy. So if you deliver value but you're not trustworthy, I don't know if you're going to stab me in the back, or you're talking about me behind other people. The relationship is not going to be good. And that's why it's so important to understand, how am I being perceived in the world of work? And adding value is actually just being helpful because you can. Like, that's all it boils down to. You're not being political. You're not thinking, oh, I'm this level and you're that level. So you're actually just being helpful. And you will be surprised, if you have those 2 things, you will enjoy very good relationships at work. Trust and value. The influential power couple.
Trust and value. Wow. Well, so you have told us about how we can bring value on board by just being helpful. It sounds really simple. Is it that easy, Tracey?
It's really that easy. I have some secrets in terms of how I add value. So one of the things, in my book, I've got this 5-point framework, and the book is called Networking Made Easy. And the point is that there are 5 things in this framework, and in isolation, they are very easy things to do. But it's the ability to bring them all together consistently over time that will allow you to be a master expert at building relationships. And the 4th part of the framework, which I love, and I always tell people to start from there, because when people hear the word networking, they think, it's really transactional. People are going to think I'm bothering them. They really shy away from it and have kind of quite a negative perception. But I always tell people, if that is you, and you are already thinking that I don't like networking, it fills me with a lot of dread, start with point 4 of the framework, which is lead with value, becoming a person of value. And it's not difficult. All it requires you is to be thoughtful. And there are 3 areas that I think anybody can do to lead with value. So the first one is that you can be a connector. And what does that look like? So every time I talk to somebody new, after I've had a conversation with them, I literally just take 1 minute to think, based on what this person has shared with me, the information I have, is there anybody that they could benefit from knowing in my network? And if the answer is yes, I will go out of my way to make an introduction. I will ask the other person, I met this person, and oftentimes it's going to be mutually beneficial. So a lot of people, no one will rarely say, no, I don't want you to connect me. So being a connector is a very easy way to add value. Very easy way. The second thing is being a sharer. You know, I know that, Hannah, I see you all the time on LinkedIn. I'm also on LinkedIn. You know, how much information do we consume comes across our path? You know, it may not be for us, but what stops us from taking a step to tag somebody? I actually had a conversation with somebody, and, you know, this was somebody who, she's actually doing her master's in the UK, did her first degree in Ghana. And one of my friends that I went to university with, she's an engineer. I am not in engineering, I'm in finance. And she put up a post mentioning that she's looking to mentor young girls, people that are interested in the, you know, kind of engineering and, you know, the amazing stuff that she does. Anyway, as soon as I saw the post, I thought of this young lady who's trying to navigate her way through the UK, trying to land her job after her master's, and I tagged her. Today, I get a note saying it was amazing to connect with her. They had a conversation. She's agreed to mentor her. She never would have seen the opportunity had I not tagged her in that post. But that didn't take anything away from me. It was literally like, I didn't have to know that it would be a match made in heaven. I just said, what the little I know of this young lady and my friend, I think they will be a good connection. Sometimes it's just, I just see somebody's tagline and I'm like, oh, that's what my friend does. And I'll just tag them in the post, because you never know who it may benefit. So that is an easy way to lead with value. And it's one thing to think it, but how many of us actually act on that good intention? And that's the difference. So leading with value, being able to do that, you see something, it's not for you, but wait, who else in your network could benefit? Who else in your network could benefit? So again, when I see your content, the first thing I think about, who are the doctors in my network that need to see this and be inspired? Or who are the people I know that are trying to break into, you know, kind of the UK, the US, that could benefit from listening to this content? So being a sharer. And the last thing I would say about is an easy way to lead with value is also participating. You know, so for some on social media, it's creating content. That is a way to be valuable, bringing your perspective to the table. If you're at work, speaking up. You know, we've got an idea, not thinking, oh, my idea doesn't matter, they're going to think it's stupid. But actually, the way you see the world is different and your perspective is valuable. So even I talk about people being authentically themselves, that is a way to add value. So they are 3 things that anybody can do, because you all can be a connector, you all can share information with people in your network, and you all can be yourself. And when you lead with value, it makes it very easy for you as an individual to ask for help, because you know that you yourself go out of your way to help people.
It's interesting that you bring this up, Tracey, because I'm currently doing a research paper on professional generosity. And I realized that it's what you're talking about being a connector, a sharer, and being a participant. It kind of ticks boxes all the qualities that someone can be described as being professionally generous. If you're being professionally generous, you don't gatekeep.
I love that phrase, professional generosity, because it's a way of life and it's how you choose to show up in the workplace. So if you are professionally generous over time, consistently, people are going to have a really good experience of you in the workplace. So people are going to think of Hannah and think, wow, like actually Hannah's always helpful. So I find that because I show up like this at work, I'm always getting pulled into conversations. People trust me. They know that, okay, Tracey is willing to help without necessarily getting the credit, and it's okay. You know, so again, you know, these are the things that people can do to, one, add value, but then you also gain trust.
So Tracey, we did park the topic about your 5 framework. Do you want us to delve in now, or do you, because we've only
I think
done
we
one?
should give you a round robin of the 5-point framework, which is very easy. Like I said, nothing is rocket science, but I think you will be surprised at you know, how little people do of this intentionally. And for those that know me, intentionality is actually my favorite word. Being intentional is so important. And especially when we live in a world that is always on the go, or there's so many distractions, you know, our intentionality gets hijacked a lot of the time. It gets hijacked. So with this framework, it starts off with being someone who knows what you want. So, and what do I mean by that? I think you can look at it on a micro level, you can look at it on a macro level. So on a micro level, it's, I'm going into this meeting. What are my objectives? What questions do I need to be answered? What decisions do we need to make? So going into it, you're very intentional about what the outcome is. And that just allows you to be more efficient and more targeted. You know, I'm going into this meeting. I really want to build a relationship with this person. So I'm going to make sure that I ask a personal question, but you're thinking about it before you go in. So I'm going to a networking event. Which types of people do I want to meet? I'm going to a conference. How am I going to maximize it? What are the 3 things I want to get out of this conference? So that's all about thinking about what do you want. And I encourage people to also write it down to kind of make it more concrete. And the reason why this is so important is that when you are intentional, when you have your attention is there, it's easier to spot opportunity.
I find it amusing. For most international medical graduates, they'll go for a conference or a seminar, and they'll come in with 2 or 3 girlfriends, and you just be sawing all through it. And I'm thinking, you know her already, you know everything about her. Why are you sat together? So it's good that you're drawing our mind to being intentional and coming in. So you see who is speaking.
It's true. Like, I think that's a great point you make. You know, a conference, you know the speakers, connecting to them before the event, because a lot of people will connect after. So you get in before the rush and you let them know, I'm going to be at this event. I'm really looking forward to meeting you, you know. And I've actually written an article, and I'll come on to that. I think that leads us on to our next point. So
yeah,
I guess kind of just on the knowing what you want, also at a higher level. So even in your career, like, what do I want? What am I working towards? So again, just having that long-term view, it also helps you make decisions in the interim, because you can then assess, is this towards where I'm going, or is this moving me further away?
Tracey, you know, about that, doesn't it make our relationships or networks sound really transactional? Because it's almost like we are only connecting for what's in it for me. What would you say?
Yes, so I think that's so I think that now brings me on to my next point, because when it comes to building relationships, it's really important to connect boldly and broadly. So actually, you know, just for me, like, you know, people always ask, you know, on LinkedIn, maybe they're a bit selective of who they accept as a request. I'm like, anybody can join my network and my sphere of influence. Come, like, if you connect with me, come, because you never know where they're going to be tomorrow. So again, it doesn't pay for you to be strategic about how you connect with people, but being an open book. So I could go into a space and be like, these are all doctors. I work in finance. There is no connection here. But do I go into that space being curious? Because I may meet you and actually you may be of great value to someone in my network. So actually it pays to be very open and broad. So that's my second thing, being willing to connect boldly and broadly. And to use your example of, you know, the girls that come in together, maybe at the conference, and they stay together all night, or, you know, they don't, you know, like Siamese twins, they do not leave their side. Like, that is not a good approach. That is not a good approach. Like, you actually have to be intentionally, like, and I've, you know, I remember when I traveled for New York for work, and I went to a networking event. I remember I was standing at the event and I looked around and I said, okay, where am I going to go? I'm going to go there. Just some random girl that was sitting by herself, engage in conversation. But again, you have to be intentional and interrupt your bias, because everything in you is going to want to gravitate to what looks like you.
What I do is that I look out for someone who doesn't look like me, who doesn't sound like me, who doesn't dress like me.
Yes.
So I intentionally go fishing to see, okay, if I'm a lady, I probably talk to a guy. If I'm a person of color, I'm a black person, I'm probably talking to a Caucasian.
Yeah.
I'm British. Let's look for someone else. It's okay. Enough of fish and chips. Let's do something else.
But the thing is about that is that the beauty of it is that you realize actually how, even though you're so different, you're so connected. Because again, there will be things that unless I reveal to you, you wouldn't know. So, you know, I remember at work, you know, there was one time where I was trying to do some like DEI initiatives at work, and we needed like a senior sponsor. And one of the MDs said, oh yeah, I will do it. Because, you know, our CEO asked around and said, I'll do this. And I had to then have a meeting with him, and I was like, I'm going to have nothing in common with this guy. Like, this is going to be really awkward. But again, like I said, my background of going to boarding school helped me a bit to not, kind of, I can handle, difference. So it was fine. But within a couple of minutes of talking, we realized that his granddad had built a house in Ghana. Lebanese guy, granddad
No
had built.
way.
But that just kind of broke the ice. But looking at him, I would have no clue. And I could have all these assumptions. So that's why one of the things I say is everything you need is a conversation away. People reveal things about themselves and you realize how connected you are rather than the assumptions, the biases that think, oh, we have nothing in common. But
Tracey,
until you start talking,
you should repeat the bits about what you said. I think that deserves a pause and reflect that everything you need is a conversation away. Like let us
everything.
sink it. Let it sink in.
Everything you need is a conversation away. And, I think, you and I have spoken that, sometimes even if you think about, the audience that, is probably going to be listening to this, people, coming, maybe from overseas and they're wanting to kind of settle down here, there's only so much you can research online. Some things will not be revealed on a website. It will be revealed in a conversation. So again, and this is why you have to be open in the way you connect with people. Your cousin in the UK may have a network where they know doctors, but you might know they work in a completely different field. So you're not even sharing what you want to do. And that brings me on to the next part of the framework. So the second part is connecting boldly and broadly. The third part, and I think this is contrary to definitely my Ghanaian upbringing heritage, is that you have to be willing to share information about yourself.
Ooh.
Because this is what you reveal. And the reason why I want to stress on this is that I cannot count the number of times where I've had a conversation with somebody who has told me what they want to do. In that moment, I cannot help them. But because I lead with value, I have another conversation a couple of weeks later. And who do I now think about when I hear of an opportunity? The person that revealed to me that this is what they were looking for. So this young lady who I was able to tag in a LinkedIn post to my friend, because I now knew more about what she wanted to do. Now, when I come across these things, you come to mind. So I always tell people that the information you share about yourself, that is the ammunition you give others to help you. The information you receive is your ammunition to add value. So, and I remember I did my workshop online, and one of the things, it was this young lady, she was like, when I said, what are your key takeaways? She said, I realized that closed mouths don't get fed. And it's true. So what you realize is that now you start being open, you start letting people know, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. The doors will start opening. But oftentimes people are at work with people that are so different to them, and then they're just getting frustrated and they want to leave. People are racist, people don't, but are you having the right conversations in the right places?
This framework, Tracey, I should have had it some 10, 15 years ago. My life would have been much better. Now I feel cheated.
So that's point 3. Point 4, we've spoken about leading with value. And how I define that is that you are just somebody that is willing to help indiscriminately where you can. Because you can. Not because you know their dad because you can help. You're willing to help. And like I said, what that does is it now gives you the confidence to ask for help, because you know that actually in my economy, I help where I can. So why would I not go and ask somebody else for help? Or you're the type of person that you look down, you've just come through the system and you've now landed your first job, after you kind of went through the whole process. Are you now looking back to see who else wants to do what I did and how can I help them? How can I make their path easier based on what I've been through? Leading with value. And for me, like the trajectory of my family's lives was transformed because of this. So when it even came to schools, my parents were, they were struggling, 5 kids under the age of 10, in inner city London. And it came to the point of choosing secondary schools for their children. My dad had already decided that the schools in South London were not good enough, that he was taking my sister to Ghana for education, until one conversation at the school gate. A woman, my mum had a banner, she had a sticker on her car. Something, it was like, Jesus loves you, or I love Jesus. And she said, oh, are you a Christian? That sparked a conversation. Oh, I have children, my daughter's in year 6. Oh, what school are they going to? Oh, my husband is taking them back to Ghana because the schools here are not good. They're really bad, this. We've heard that children get sport here, so we're taking them back to Ghana. And then she said, there is something happening. There's a initiative that is happening called government assisted places. If your child can take the exam, you can get a full scholarship to go to independent school. My mom said, So it was that one conversation. My mum called my dad. My dad was in Ghana at the time. He came back and he taught my sister for 11 plus. I think the space was like a couple of months and she passed. So it was that. She then went to boarding school. Then my brother went to boarding school, my sister. But had it not been for that conversation, we never would have known. And that's what I tell people. That woman will forever feature in the history of our family. Her name was Mrs. Bonsu. She probably doesn't even remember. She probably does not even remember. But the question is, how many stories do you feature in that people can pinpoint and say, if it was not for Tracey, I wouldn't be here, or I wouldn't have known about this opportunity. So if you live like that, you know that in the same way you pull others up, other people, you can expect that other people will pull you up. So that's the lead with value. And it's so heartwarming when you do that, when you see, actually, I didn't gatekeep. I opened the door. I let other people in. And then the last one, this is what translates into results. You have to be a person of action. Follow up. Like I said, when the girl told me her story today and was really excited, I said, that's fantastic. But really, well done to you for following up. You didn't have to reach out to her. You didn't have to set a time to call her. You didn't have to but you made it happen. So follow up is what makes things happen. How many times do we go to a conference, we meet people and we don't follow up? And I always tell people think, oh, follow up, it has to be, I don't know what to say, but follow up is thank you. Follow up is, you gave me a piece of advice and I'm coming back to update you about how it went. So the voice note I received today was a follow up in our relationship. Tracey, just letting you know, I just spoke to X, Y, and Z. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much for tagging me in that post. And what does that do? That makes me more invested in that individual because I'm now part of your story. It's not that you only come when you need help again. And that's how you maintain relationships. It's sharing something because I know what you need and what you want and what you're interested in doing. I can point you to resources as and when I come across them. So follow-up doesn't have to be the next day. It could be in a month's time. It could be, follow-up needs to be relevant and timely. So when you can, do you follow up? And that's the framework. And it's not difficult, but it's, if you can bring them all together, you will be amazing at building relationships.
Tracey, I think at this point we could just say good night and go because this has been really insightful. Thank you. You've added so much value. I'm just sitting here taking notes, reflecting and thinking, oh, that was a missed opportunity. Oh yeah, that one too. Yeah. That.
You can always go back. That's the beauty of professional relationships. They're not friendships. You have some friendships, it's like, I haven't spoken to this person for 6 months. I can't just call them and ask them for help immediately because they're going to be like, but professional relationships are not like that because oftentimes if you're reaching out because you want to flag somebody that could be good for a role, if that goes well, that's value. Even the way I got my current job was leading with value. I remember it was a maternity cover, and I was talking, there was my client at the time, and they were saying that, we're really trying to fill a maternity cover. And I could see that it was very frustrating for, my then client. And I said, okay, she should send me the job spec. If I know anybody, I'm more than happy to make a recommendation. So I was genuinely willing to activate my network for this role. But it just so happened that when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. I'd be interested. And I put my hat in the ring.
Oh,
and
wow.
Again, it was a maternity cover. So I was leaving a permanent role for a 12-month contract. And I asked in the interview, oh, is there any way it could be longer than 12 months? And they said, no, this is going to be a 12-month assignment. And 5 years later, I'm still there. And it's literally because it's these two things. I lead with value and I build trust. And when you do that, you will always be relevant. Because if you think about what redundant means, it means that you are no longer of use. So if your mindset is that, where can I add value? Where can I be useful? You will always be in demand.
I mean, I get the framework that you've given, but I'm really, really a bit introverted and I'm really struggling with my English as well. Do I quite fit into what you're talking about? Well, I do speak English, but I'm a bit self-conscious of how I sound when I talk. What can I do to still be able to network and relate with people? I've just come from India, Pakistan, Tanzania some 3 months ago. What do I do to fit in?
So I think that's a great question. I would say, first of all, I wrote a LinkedIn article actually called How to Leverage Relationship Capital to Overcome Imposter Syndrome. So I know that, some people may be in spaces and they don't feel like, they belong, or it's really awkward. Again, where you are today this isn't the first time someone has been there. So try to find people that have been in your position. I'm sure there will be people, doctors, people that have come to this podcast that will know exactly what it feels like. Try to attract that mentorship. Get people that can take you under their wing, show you under their bonnet. And I've also written another article called How to Get a Mentor Without Asking, Will You Be My Mentor? So there is a way that you can act that can get people to invest and pour into you. Because again, sometimes it's just that you need people to help you navigate. You need to build your network. Because again, if you build a relationship with somebody that takes a liking to you, they can activate their network on your behalf because they're using their relationship capital. I have relationships that, because I've added value and I've been helpful, if I pick up the phone and say, I need you to help this person, they will say, absolutely, because of me. So again, think about who are your mentors. You will if you've come into the country, look for someone that can help you navigate. Who is the person? And that person will probably be like you because you can relate to them. But also, the other thing I would say is be curious about people. You may not have to know everything and be, know all the cultural, norms and all of this stuff, but ask people questions. There are a lot of things I don't know, I have no clue about, but I'm very good at asking people questions. I'm interested in people, and also I would say, like, yes, maybe you feel self-conscious because you're coming from a different culture, you have a different accent, but you carry so much value. The way you see the world is different. Your experience is hugely valuable to the system that you are coming into. So own your value as well. And don't let anybody look down on you. So that's what I would say. So yes, and I know that I am probably an extra extrovert, yes. But what I will say is that, this framework, you can apply even on a one-to-one basis. It doesn't mean maybe you aren't going to be the people that, that person that is going out everywhere, but even within your team, I'm sure there are people that you don't naturally gravitate towards. How can you push yourself out of your comfort zone to go for coffee with them? Get to know them as a person. And also share about yourself as well. Because there's so much you can also share with people that they can learn from you and you can learn from them.
Absolutely. And Tracey, with nowadays some roles can be hybrid, so you might not be on site. You might be working remotely, joining from Teams or Zoom or whatever. Would that be a disadvantage for you to build a network if you're not on site?
So I think you have to be more intentional if you're not on site, because yes, there may be things happening where in person that maybe you don't hear or, whatever. But I don't think, I think actually the hybrid world has brought so many benefits. Like, it's made us more globally connected. I would say there are things that I think are good for building rapport, like having your camera on. So many times going to a conference call, like, going to a VC and people's cameras are off and it's like, so somebody has likened it to, would you come to a meeting with a paper bag on your head? You wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, why is your camera off? Put it on, like, so that I can see, especially if I've never met you for the first time. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, sometimes there are exceptions, but I think, always try to, where possible, let the human side come out. And part of that is your face, like me seeing you. So again, I think I don't think it has to be a hindrance. I've built very strong relationships with my global colleagues that I don't sit next to, but I'm not afraid to reach out. So it's that connecting boldly and broadly. I go on a conference call and I see someone that I haven't seen before. I will Teams them. Oh, hi, welcome to the firm. Like, it would be great to have a one-to-one catch up and get to know them. Know where they sit, how do they fit into the bigger picture. So again, I think there are things that you can do to be very intentional. You can share, and this is a whole nother conversation, like, how do you build your visibility in a hybrid world? But you can. I even think my presence on LinkedIn has helped me hugely build my internal profile at work because people see me, so I can become an authority because of what I'm posting on LinkedIn. So people think I'm an expert, but it's because I've chosen to post on that. And it's not political, so it's things that I can do. But again, I can shape it into how I want people to view me. I want people to view me as an expert in leadership, in networking. So that's what I create content around. So again, like, there are different strategies, but I don't necessarily think it has to be a hindrance if you are operating in a hybrid world. But you do have to be more intentional about being visible.
We do have to be intentional indeed. I'm happy that you've mentioned LinkedIn like a few times. Some people find it really cringy when they have to talk or put themselves out there on social media. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn as a professional person, as a doctor, consultant, any medical healthcare professional?
So I love LinkedIn. I love it. I do find that actually in the UK, I don't know if this is global, people that work for government, maybe NHS, teachers, maybe they're not as vocal on LinkedIn, but you will get some. But I think probably what you found is that now that you've been more visible, you're attracting other people, other doctors that are also on LinkedIn. So it really does help you grow your network, which is fantastic, and open doors of opportunity. I would say actually, if you have a CV, you should have a LinkedIn profile.
If you have a CV, you should have a LinkedIn profile.
You should have a
Wow.
LinkedIn profile. And there are a few parameters that I would say is make sure that everybody you know in real life, you are connected to them on LinkedIn professionally.
Really, Tracy? Because I don't think I have any of my colleagues
Yeah.
from my workplace on
Because
LinkedIn.
they will move around. And again, it all becomes about being intentional about how are you choosing to show up. Like if you go on my LinkedIn profile, do you get a good appreciation, a deeper appreciation of who Tracey is as an individual? Because we are dynamic. And like I said, it's like you can even influence their perception of you by how they see you and kind of your interactions on LinkedIn. So it was really interesting. Like, my sister used to always post about leadership stuff. And, she was saying that actually at work, someone was, oh my gosh, I love the stuff that you post. So I am very intentional about anybody I meet at work, I will add them to LinkedIn because I do want them to see kind of my
A
area of
part of you.
expertise. Yeah, it's part of my brand building strategy. So again, and then the other thing is, I think, when I do these workshops, I do a spectrum. I think, and it ranges from being passive, where you are just scrolling, you don't do anything, you just scroll. Maybe you will never comment, and then it kind of gets a bit more engaging. Okay, maybe you will comment, maybe you'll reshare. But actually, what about shaping the narrative? Do you create content? Are you a creator? And that's valuable, your perspective. And I think when you start creating, you now start attracting people that should be in your network.
Yeah. Because oftentimes we tend to be very passive. We're just consumers. You like, you'd share, Occasionally you would comment.
Exactly.
And
Occasionally.
it would be that trite one that LinkedIn has given you already. So you probably would say
Congrats.
congratulations,
Congrats, Hannah. With an
or
emoji.
I'm trying to remember some of the ones that they have there. So very insightful. Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, but again, and I think when it comes to creating content, you don't have to kind of go full blown start writing articles, but it could just be reposting and putting your thoughts on it. You've seen an article, reposting why you find it interesting, or doing a poll, or doing something. But again, it first starts with being intentional. How do you want to be known for? Like, what is your brand? And then it's about, okay, so let me show up. So it's not everything that I will write about on LinkedIn, but I choose what I write. If it's networking, if it's leadership, I'll write about it.
Tracy, I think I recently read an article of yours, and it was highlighting 5 conversations that we should be having at work. I'm not going to let you go without sharing that with us.
Okay, and I think some of it will definitely tie into what we've said already. But I guess kind of, again, coming back to intentional, I think it's really important we're having intentional conversations at work. So these are 5 conversations, and what I would say is, just as I go through them, just think, do I have these types of conversations? So the first one is value adding conversations. So this is the types of conversations where are you proactively adding value to people? So what this looks like for me, I work on a project, I'm sharing my lessons learned, I'm thinking about who else is going to have to do what I do. Can I kind of reach out to them, share with them? So I'm adding value. I'm making it easier for them to do their work. I'm bringing new insights. So again, as maybe in your role as a GP, you come across something, maybe you've come across a few cases of the same thing. Do you alert the others quite swiftly? It's about, how am I adding that value? And the second one is advice seeking conversations. So this is more likely to be had with somebody more experienced than you, where you are being humble and you're saying, I would love your thoughts on X, Y, and Z. So I find these types of conversations are fantastic for maybe people that are more senior to you. You asked for a catch up in the diary, you've asked to have a coffee with somebody, like, I don't know what I'm going to talk to them about. Ask them questions, ask them advice. I want to do this. What are your thoughts? What are you thinking? Are you getting advice to help you navigate in your career? or do you think you can do it by yourself? My point is that where you are today, you've never been before, but someone has. So why don't you ask them and help them to get you to where you're trying to go without the crashes and things that they had? Because, and I always say, you know, hindsight is the best type of sight. Why should I make my mistakes if I can literally start on rung 10 rather than at the bottom? So advice-seeking conversations.
I say there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just take it and add your bells and whistles.
Exactly. And it will be beautiful. And then the other one is peer building conversations. So again, I think the way the education system is set up, you know, it's always kind of pitching you against other people, like ranking. And so it can become very competitive. But actually, in the real world, we create value when we collaborate. So how often are you having those conversations with your peers, people that are on exactly the same stage as you? What are you finding challenging? Or, you know, what have you found out? What are you learning? And actually intentionally having those conversations. So that's why it can be really valuable to be part of professional bodies, you know, talking to other peers. You know, how are they dealing with similar challenges that you're facing? Or, you know, what do they foresee the trends to be, and just learning from them. So again, do you have those conversations? And again, you do not choose who is sitting in your profession. So again, it's likely that those peers will look completely different to you. But what you have in common are the common challenges, are the common work projects, that is the commonality. And that's how you can build relationships. You can add value, you can build trust. And then the other conversations, and we haven't really spoken about this, but I call them sponsor update conversations. And, you know, a lot of people have mentors, but sponsors, they are the people that they create opportunities for you. So first of all, do you know who your sponsor is? And second of all, do you continually keep them updating about your achievements so that they can continue to back you in rooms that you are not in? So again, for me, I will have conversations with my sponsors once every 6 months. At least they know what I want to do. And that has allowed me to carve out a career that I love. At every juncture, this is what I want to do. How would I go about it? And they are talking about me in rooms that I will never get the opportunity to sit in. But unless you're having those conversations, I always tell people, if you don't tell people what you want, they will fill it with assumption. She's a mother of 3. She's not going to want to travel. Who said I didn't want to travel? You know, people will assume, oh, you know, she's not going to want that promotion because she's 30.
Yeah.
So they will make assumptions. So it's up to you to say what
Let
you want.
them know.
Exactly. But oftentimes we're having those conversations with people that have no influence.
No power.
We're telling our mum and our dad and complaining to our brothers and our sisters, but they can't actually do anything about it. They can't change the situation. So who are you speaking to about your aspirations? And it's your sponsors, because they're the ones that can make it happen. They can give you advice. They can open doors. They can connect you. They may get wind of opportunities that are aligned with what you want. So that one is really important. And then the other one, not saying this because I'm biased, but HR conversation. Many people only go to HR like they're the police when something goes wrong. But HR is such a powerful function within any organization. So let them be your friends. Let them know what you want to do. Talk to them. Keep them updated. Get to know them. Because again, they sit in the organization. They see so much that they can make things happen. They have a lot of influence. Even when I think about me getting my first job, I did an internship and I didn't get an offer, but it was my relationship with the HR person that fast-tracked me to another area of the bank. So make sure you're also building those relationships with your HR contacts. So those are the 5 relationships: value adding, advice seeking, peer building, sponsor updates, and HR conversations.
HR, I didn't know about the HR conversations. Like you said, we only go there when we have a complaint.
When you have a complaint,
Something.
when you need, you do you know what I mean? When
leave.
you get in trouble, exactly. When you want to resign, but get to know them. The reason why there could be an opportunity that would satisfy, you know, kind of that frustration that you're having if you just opened your mouth to the right people.
And like you said earlier, that a closed mouth never gets fed. If you don't ask, you don't get.
You don't. And that's one thing I'm realizing, that if you don't ask,
you don't get.
It's you. It's not them, it's you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always tell my junior colleagues, and even some of my colleagues, that what's the worst? It's a no.
Yeah. No, it's a no. And then at least they know that, oh, this person is driven, or this person is motivated.
Yes. You know, and interestingly, it could be a no today, And then one day you'll be walking past the corridor and it's going to say, you know, Hannah, the last time you said you wanted to do an extra shift. Well, there is a shift available.
Yeah, because things change.
Yeah. So it was a no then, but yeah, now there's that slot available, or there's that opportunity for you to take a leadership role in the firm or in the practice.
A
So yeah.
no today is not a no forever.
And no, today is definitely not a no forever. So Tracey, you've given, I don't know if LinkedIn should take you as a PR. You've hyped LinkedIn so much, but you see,
And I would love to do a LinkedIn learning course. So LinkedIn, if you're watching, let's get in touch.
yeah,
Sharing information.
I should definitely tag you LinkedIn. Yeah. So how would I be? So I've seen this consultant, urologist. I like what he does, but he's not my friend. How do I send him a message to connect without sounding too needy?
Great question. And I have written an article about this. So I'll just quickly run through and you can kind of go through it if it sounds like it would be helpful. But one of the things I talk about to people is like learn how to listen virtually. You know, especially if they're active kind of on social media, on LinkedIn, like you can check out their activity and get a sense of what they're into. If they create content, you know, I would always, if it's something that I really want to get their attention, I will send a request to connect. It will be personalized. So I will maybe reference their work, you know, what I've been really impressed with, what I found useful in terms of what they do. I will share a little bit about me. So I won't go in, oh, I want you to mentor me. No, I may say, you know, I'm an aspiring urologist and I would love to, you know, I love the, you know, your latest article on this. I found it really insightful. I would love to connect because all you want them to do is accept. And then what I would probably do is, again, if they create content, I would go and engage with that content. I would comment because remember, people don't comment, they just like. So I would go over and beyond. I would even go and repost it and put commentary because again, they would get that notification that Tracey has
Yeah,
reposted
reposted
my work.
it.
Exactly. So they're
Yeah.
now seeing me pop up in different ways. And then once they accept, I can then, you know, send another message. Thank you so much for my, you know, accepting my request to connect. It would be, and you know, if it is, then I would love to, you know, ask a question or I'd love to have the opportunity to, but because people are not like that and they're not forthcoming, you will stand out from the crowd. So there are so many relationships that I have initiated on LinkedIn. And now today, some of them are my mentors, personal mentors, that I've got them on WhatsApp. I can send them a WhatsApp message. And I didn't meet them in person. I met them. I saw them doing a YouTube video and I was like, this person I need them in my network. Reach out to them. That's even how I got on a podcast. Literally, I heard her, she was interviewing somebody and it was in an area that I was so interested in. So I ended up having a conversation with the podcast guest. And then I was invited to on the podcast because why? Once I connected with the lady, she looked at my profile and she's like, oh, you have a really interesting background. I would love to interview you. So it works both ways. And what I've found is even when I've connected with people, you know, you ask the question, should I have a LinkedIn profile? When I've connected with people that I've met at conferences, I've had someone come back and be like, wow, you've got a really impressive profile. So again, people will scout you out. So
Yeah.
is your profile reflective of you and the work that you do and the impact you want to make?
Absolutely, Tracey. You couldn't have said it better. Even for some of my guests that come on this podcast, I don't know them in person or we connected over LinkedIn. And that's how impactful the value adding connection can be, you know, because it puts you out there and it puts you in the right picture if that's how you choose to position yourself.
Definitely, definitely. You know, even what you're doing, giving people a platform, that is a way to add value.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
you could end up interviewing famous people in the medical profession as, you know, this community grows. And people say, I love what you're doing. So again, people don't have to like you, but they may love what you stand for. They may love what you're doing, but they may not like you as a person. They may not be your best friend, but actually they love the vision. But if it's not clear for people to see, what are they valuing around? So that's why it's so important to be visible, create content, because it's then bigger than you.
Yeah,
It's what you're trying to achieve.
absolutely. And like you said, we have to get the value and trust.
Yeah. The influential power couple, trust and value. Yeah. So if you are having problems in your
Mm-hmm.
relationships at work, either you're not adding value or they don't trust you.
And we've been extensive about how to add value.
Yeah, exactly. And then trust, I would say, you know, Trust is very interesting, but because in the workplace, it's very easy to get sucked into politics, talking about people and all of this stuff. But again, you need to hold yourself to a standard. Are you also involved in, like, the politics of talking behind people's back? All of those things do not, yes, people may engage with you on that level, but I can guarantee you they won't trust you.
Absolutely. Because what I say is that the people who talk to you about others talk to others about you.
Yes, 100%. 100%. But again, how do you know people trust you? Your colleagues start confiding in you. You get information before it gets out to everybody else. But because they know that when I tell Tracey it doesn't go anywhere, I know that they trust me.
Tracey, that's been really, really impactful. So, in a nutshell, apart from you giving us the title of your book, giving us the link, I'm going to put this in the description. I'm going to put your LinkedIn profile. Please go follow her, because
Connect.
she
I would
is.
love to connect with you. Boldly and broadly, the medical professional LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you.
Yes, yes. Oh, but Tracey, for the last one before I let you give your final word, at which points do we need to terminate any professional relationship? I mean, I'm big on boundaries and about making sure that things don't get murky and things like that. But when would you say, you know what, this is it, I'm unfriending you,
Yeah,
or
I
I'm
think
disconnecting?
I think that's a great question. And I think one thing that has helped me with workplace relationships, especially when they've been a bit thorny or a bit difficult, is that I just take a step back. And remember, the goal is that we have to learn how to work with people to get productive outcomes. That is the goal.
So
So I
Noah's
just
Ark.
Noah's Ark. The annoying mosquito with the elephant. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's Noah's Ark. So what I do is I take a step back and I say, is this a personal thing against me, or is it just the way the person is? And 99% of the time, it's just the way the person is. They're just an annoying mosquito. Do you know what I mean? So it helps you to be able to just be like, it's there, it's them, it's not me. And you can still kind of show up with your best self. But what I would say is that if it's getting to the point where it's toxic and people are being abusive, then you need to respect yourself and put boundaries. But most people, I think you need to do, and those people will probably not last very long in the workplace anyway. But I do think most of the time, like, just having that kind of neutral perspective, it allows you to continue to work with people. It's not saying they're going to come to your house, they're going to be a sleepover, they're going to be your best friend, but it's just giving you perspective. Like, hey, this person's just a bit problematic. I'm going to be mindful with how I tread, but we still need to be able to work and have a productive outcome without their toxicity rubbing off on you.
And bring down the whole institution because the elephant and the ant is fighting.
Yeah, the mosquito is there biting people, and just get some Malarone and some anti-repellent, you'll be fine.
No, the mosquito nets, keep him out.
The mosquito net is your perspective, your mindset. Yeah, you're just an annoying mosquito.
Oh, Tracey, so what are your parting words for us today?
You know what they are. Everything you need is a conversation away. So make
As
sure
a
you're having lots of
conversation.
conversations. And I guess in the hybrid world, everything you need is a click away. So connect with people, connect with them, and never be, like, there's so much on the other side of your fear. And, people are doors of opportunity. People are valuable. You are valuable. So own your value, bring them into your relationships. And I can guarantee you will have a great adventure in your career. That's my parting word.
Tracey, I'm so happy I didn't go off straight to bed after work today and I had this conversation. I'm really excited and I'm sure our audience feel the same way. Please like, share, comment, and let someone else listen to this. Don't gatekeep. Don't gatekeep.
Be a sharer. Share the information. Share the love. Because this will help you. This will really help you.
Yes. It's helped me so much. So until next time, we say bye for now.
Bye.